Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with a severe weather outlook and discussion for December 29th, 2021, occurred around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're focusing on the potential for a localized severe weather outbreak right now, mainly across this corridor from Mississippi in through Alabama today. We can already see that right now we are dealing with temperatures that are well into the 70s right now across most of central Mississippi. And this is because there is a pretty significant moisture plume and just overall unstable atmosphere down here. The atmosphere is a little bit more capped and stable to the north. We can see we have these thunderstorms that are developing kind of along the line here in Arkansas, and these will be moving into Mississippi and northwestern Alabama in through Tennessee and central Tennessee later today. If we take a look here at the radar, first of all, we do have a tornado watch that is out for most of this area from Arkansas back through portions of Louisiana, most of central Mississippi, and portions of southern Texas, or excuse me, southern Tennessee. Again, we do have these renegade storms. We'll turn this watch box off. We do have these renegade storms developing in the open warm sector at this time. This is a weakly forced environment down here. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of forcing for convection down here compared to up here. Up here, you have more of the surface low track, which is going to be somewhere back and through here, kind of moving up like that. And you have a lot of forcing and ascent forcing across this entire area. So a lot of convection across here this afternoon. And this is going to limit the instability quite substantially. We notice that there's a widespread cloud cover field. And this kind of really implies that there's not a lot of moisture here and that the better instability axis is going to be down here to the south in the open warm sector. Now, these warm sector storms are going to be important because these will be the renegade supercells that could track into portions of central Mississippi and Alabama later today. Again, these could, in all theoretical chances, produce a brief tornado or two. And I think the greatest potential for stronger tornadoes today is going to be in this area right here, kind of around the Tupelo, Mississippi area down through portions of central Mississippi and western parts of Alabama. Now, what's going on today according to the HRRR? This is the HRR forecast, again, valid, the 18Z run valid as of 2 p.m. We'll move this out here to kind of near the current hour. This is 19 Zulu. And again, this is what we're looking at. We got kind of this line of storms right now across portions really of Arkansas moving in through portions of southern Tennessee. And we can kind of see that here's these renegade supercells right now that are trying to develop in this area. And we move this forward, we can kind of see that the environment is right for these little supercells to form in this confluence line, where we can kind of see that here on the visible satellite, that we have kind of a confluence line here. We have a line that is somewhat like this, where thunderstorms can just go up around here. And on the back side of this, there's a little bit more of cloud cover. And this cloud cover, again, is not really allowing temperatures to climb. Instability is a little bit limited there. But right across here in this open warm sector along and to the east of the confluence line, temperatures are well into the 70s and 80s. Dew points up there into the upper 60s and low 70s. So we have a pretty good moisture plume right now that is surging northward. Now, the moisture axis, according to the HRRR, we can see here is, again, the deeper moistures along this confluence line, and it's not really getting that far north. We do have some 60s dew points along the front itself right here, kind of along where the storms are currently, but these aren't really making it that far to the north. We can see that moisture surges a bit further northward by about 5 to 6, 7 p.m. We get this moisture surge that pushes northward, Again, the deeper moisture right now that is still back here, and that moisture though is going to begin to taper off as the evening goes on, and that's going to be the biggest limiting factor for severe weather, especially up here in Tennessee, where I just don't think severe weather potential is going to be overly that great. When we take a representative sounding here, this is roughly at about 21 Zulu time. So if we take a representative sounding of some of the environment, we do notice that there is a little bit of capping right here. This we can kind of zoom in here. This little increase here in the temperature, this is the red line that is temperature. It increases with height instead of decreases. And what this means is that there is going to be a little bit of a capping inversion, but that cap is going to be good because that means that we just don't have an open warm sector that is completely uncapped, and this is actually decent for discrete supercells to go up in this environment, and it's not a strongly forced, there's not a lot of ascent ongoing here, so it's very forced, or there's not a lot of forcing here, so any storms that go up will be relatively isolated in nature down here. And we can already kind of see that's what we're getting on the radar currently, is that we're getting these very discrete storms right now that are in the open warm sector. And only a few of these will begin to take over as we progress through the rest of the afternoon. Again, there is some storms down here near Hammond, Baton Rouge, LaPlace, Louisiana, but these are not really expected to, these are mainly kind of a linear or multi-cell cluster, so not really expecting any significant tornadoes out of that. Again, I would say the greatest potential is going to be here, and we can kind of look to a reason why. Again, we have a good hodograph here, and with kind of a due east-northeast storm motion here that carves out a large percentage of SRH, and that gives us some pretty good effective storm relative helicity in here. We notice that, again, we have some pretty strong winds aloft as well, so we don't really get a lot of kind of veer back veer. And we can kind of see the storm slinky indicates that it is going to be a relatively tilted updraft, and that will support the potential for a few isolated supercells and the potential for one or two tornadoes. Again, the instability, surface-based CAPE well over 2,000, but accounting for mixing in the environment, we are closer to about 1,000 mixed layer CAPE. So again, it's on the marginal side for instability, but it's certainly better than further north. And again, these kind of renegade supercells will continue potentially even well after dark here into portions of Alabama. Again, we can kind of see that this is a pretty good tornado sounding. We've got some surface-based CAPE here, mixed layer, well over about 1,500. There's a decent hodograph here, kind of an almost kind of an east-southeast storm motion. This would indicate that, again, we have that large effective storm relative helicity there. Although the wind does start to get a little bit unidirectional with time, but it is more than accounted for by the east-southeast storm motion, assuming a bunker's right motion. So there could be some supercells in this environment tonight, even into parts of central Alabama, if these storms can remain discrete. The NAM 3 kilometer, again, kind of much of the same thing. We'll roll this out to about 23Z. So this is just before, this is about at 6 o'clock in the evening. We've got these storms going up here along the confluence line, and then the actual band of storms working its way in through portions of central Tennessee, northeastern Mississippi, and eventually crossing into northwestern Alabama. Again, this is kind of the area that's been highlighted at the best chance for seeing those significant tornadoes. Again, any supercells that cross into this environment. Pretty good SRH as it gets closer to that surface low track, and we can kind of see here a sounding. Again, we do have that really clockwise curving hodograph here. Again, large storm relative helicity out here. This looks absolutely fantastic, except that it is pretty moist, and this is not necessarily the best. And in fact, we may have that this might be sort of an elevated storm. We don't really see, we do have a little bit of mixed layer instability, but this mainly seems like we could have some elevated convection here, maybe not surface based, although dew points are closer to 70 Fahrenheit. So we'll be watching this, but again, we do see the potential that these storms could indeed go tornadic, especially as they move off towards the north and east. So really anywhere from central Mississippi today in through portions of northwestern Alabama should be kind of watching this corridor right in here. I think that's probably your best chance at seeing these renegade supercells develop and move into a better environment. And we can kind of see the direction in which they're going again, kind of developing along that prefrontal confluence line. And these will continue to track generally off towards the north and east with time. There might even be some renegade supercells that come out here of Louisiana and make their way off towards the north and east with time. And this would be closer down here towards Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, that area later in towards the day. So we'll continue to watch really our two separate areas. We've got one right here, and we've got more storms that could be forming down here in the warm sector and storms moving out of Louisiana that could be moving into central Alabama and strengthen potentially with time as we roll forward. All right. So with that being said, hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Take care. Be safe, everyone. And I'll talk to you guys some more later.